So again, I'll introduce myself for those that are just joining. My name is Elke Clinton of Savvy Moms Unite, where I teach moms how to live a simple, practical, and realistic life. So I'm just going to give you some background on me so you'll have some context um, when you're thinking about what I'm about to tell you and why I'm even doing this. So I'm a mom, I'm a single mom to a 9-year-old girl who I've raised primarily on my own, with some help from my family as well as friends. Um, I also am an educator. I currently work for a private school, and in the midst of all this, I decided to start a business because I was really seeking ways I could support women who had gone through a similar path that I have. You know, raising a kid as a single parent is very difficult at times. And all the struggles that I saw, all the challenges, I really wanted to be a support to other women who were looking for simple ways to just do things and, you know, still be a cool mom, but also do it in a way where it wasn't complicated. And so that's why, I say simple, realistic, and practical, because it's got to make sense. It's got to be real for you, and it's got to be tailor made to you. So that's why I started Savvy Moms Unite. Also, I have I'm very passionate about working with women. I always have been. I'm very passionate with working with young women in particular. That's where I work with ninth and through 12th graders. So I work with a lot of young students, and I'm also a dorm parent to young girls. So I try to model and be a good role model for them, and trying to teach them different ways to doing things, and also just make sure that there's somebody who gets what they're going through, but also could be a good support to them. So we're going to get into it. So the name of the blab is called Going from Overdraft to a Better Financial Path. Now, what do I mean when I say that? So the first thing is overdraft. I'm making reference to when you overdraft on your account. I'm talking like when you've been low on your funds and your bank says that you've overdrawn your account, you've spent more than what you're supposed to, and you've then decided to, like, then you are at a point where your bank will possibly pay the fee or possibly pay your, whatever your charge is, and then charge you an amount for them paying your bill or whatever charge you had, right? So that's what I'm making reference to. Now, the reason why this topic sort of jumps at me is because, to be honest with you, for a few years, this was about almost 5 years ago. For me, I lived off my overdraft. I would overdraft my account consistently. And it's because I was working at a place where I was getting paid once a month. And getting paid once a month meant like all my bills came out at one time, and whatever was left was going to have to keep me going until the next time I got paid. And I always got paid on the 15th. So imagine if you've, paid all your bills and you got a lot of bills, you got a lot of debt, you are then waiting 3 weeks before you get money again. So for me, overdrafting was the thing for me to do because I had no other income. So I would just live off of my overdraft. There were times where I had $500 in overdraft. And that's not just the amount they paid, but that's the fees on top of that. So I was expecting every month to overdraft and just go to each month that way. I wasn't even thinking that was a bad thing. I was just like, well, that's how I got to live. So I was living like that, and really thought that was a really cool way to be. So here I am, I got, at the time, my daughter is very young. She's about, she's going on 2 years old. I'm going on overdraft consistently. I'm not thinking about it. I'm in a major debt. I owed so much money. I was in major credit card debt, um, thousands of dollars in credit card debt, maxing out credit cards, medical bills up the wazoo, and just was not considering ever dealing with it. I just thought, hey, everybody's in debt, so I'm in debt. I had student loans too, so I'm like, oh yeah, everybody got debt, so that's what, it was normal for me to be in debt. I didn't consider it a bad thing. So that leads me into what my first thought for you to consider is your mindset. You got to check your mindset. You got to get your mind right. You know that saying, you got to get your mind right. You got to get your mind right. You can't go into the process of trying to change your financial path with your same old habits. So if you're thinking, if you're ashamed of your debt, if you're someone who doesn't really care for it, if you're kind of like nonchalant about it, or if you're really just not clear on how money works, you're going to really struggle. So before you attempt any kind of like savings program or any, paying off debt program, you need to check your mindset. Think about how you think about money. I know growing up, the way I was, taught, you paid your bills and you just did what you can to make it to the next month. We were not really taught how to save. We were not really taught, how to manage money. Money came as quickly as it went out of our account. You lived paycheck to paycheck. That's how I saw my parents living. That's how we were taught. That's how we were taught very subconsciously. Like I don't think my parents sat down and said, okay, keep spending your money until your last paycheck comes. I don't think they were sitting down and telling us that, but that's how they lived. So we modeled that. So me and my siblings, we just spent until we got our next check. That's how we understood money. It wasn't until later on in my adult life that I started to understand like that kind of mindset really will keep you in debt. It will not even put you in debt, but it will keep you in debt. And it's a lack mindset. It's not a growth mindset. So I knew that for me, one of my biggest issues was I wasn't really tackling my debt because I was ashamed and part of me didn't care. The other thing was I didn't really understand how money worked. I just felt you had to be broke. And the other thing was savings wasn't a concept I understood. Saving money, I had enough to pay my bills. Once I took care of my bills, I'm good, right? So why am I saving money? What am I saving it for? It leaves my account. So dealing with your mindset first before you attempt any process is the way to go. So whether that you're doing that with a financial coach, I would suggest that. That's what I did. I hired a coach. I believe coaches are worth it, especially a good one who's going to sit down and make you think about the stuff that you're doing. And what my coach did with me first was just assess with me, how did I perceive money? How did I perceive debt? How did I perceive spending money? And when he started questioning me, I was like, oh, wow, I really have some very warped sense of money and warped sense of debt. I have to work on that. And he helped me through that by giving me books to read. I follow Dave Ramsey. He's great on Facebook. He has really great books on debt. Follow, join Facebook groups that really deal with debt solutions, and also savings, accountability, those sort of things I would suggest that you use. The second thing, if you have any overdraft accounts that are connected to your checking account, you need to remove that from your accounts. What banks did years ago, and many of them got in trouble for, is they automatically enrolled their customers into these overdraft accounts. And I'm going to explain in a minute. So they automatically enrolled you into this overdraft account, which was not backed by your savings. It was backed by them. So what they would do is, if you went, let's say you had $50 in your account and you went out, you purchased several items, but it took you over to $60 in spending, right? Now you're $10 in debt. What they would do is they pay that $10 still, charge you $25. Now you owe them $35. But they did this without permission. So many customers were enrolled in these programs, didn't really know, didn't really understand how it worked, but then was just using it because, okay, their bills were still getting paid no matter what. All they had to do was pay that $25 fee. But that $25 fee, when compounded, is way more than that. So what I say, the reason why I say remove an overdraft from your account, unless you back your checking with the savings and connect it so that if ever you go low, let's say, because sometimes that happens. Yep. Bank of America surely did. Bank of America, Citizens Bank, a lot of banks actually enrolled people in without their permission. It was a class action suit against those banks for that. So unless you have a savings account that you put money in that's connected to your checking to help with overdraft. So in case like you go to a store and you didn't think about it, you made a purchase and maybe you're like $5 short, that savings account can kick in and cover the $5 you're short, rather than now you're paying a $35 fee on top of whatever the item cost. So the only suggestion I would say, if you do have an overdraft, just make sure it's connected to a savings that you set up, not something that the bank is offering. And read the paperwork, read the between the lines, make sure you understand, speak to a customer rep at your bank, ask them questions about that overdraft account. Do not ever accept one from the bank. Make sure it's something you set up. The next thing I will tell you is start building a savings. You have to pay yourself first. Pay yourself first before you pay anybody. And the reason I say this is because you need to make sure you have a backup for a rainy day. A rainy day account is an account where if something goes wrong and you don't have the cash flow necessarily in your checking or the accounts you pay your bills out of, you have a savings so that you can pull from it to help you in a situation. So you're not using other sources. So the first thing I tell anybody is start a savings, and you can start small. Remember, I said simple, practical, realistic. I'm not telling you to go take $1,000 right now that you don't have and put it in the savings. I'm saying to you, start small and increase and build. And you will start to see what a difference it'll make in your life. So what I did, when I started my savings account, I have two actually. I have one that is connected to my checking. And that account is my rainy day account. Then I have a second one that I put aside just to put money in for expenses, like for my daughter, because I wanted to make sure I separated whatever I was saving for my child versus myself. Because there are costs that come with children that sometimes we don't consider. So it's good to just have money aside. So if anything comes up, you're like, all right, good. I have the money there. I could just take it out of that account. So get a credit union account for your savings, and also get one connected to your checking. The reason why I say a credit union, get one where you don't have access to readily. That way you're putting money in there, you're not touching it all the time, you're not digging into it, you almost forget about it. And then make it so that it's so hard for you to take money out, you really don't take money out. Because you only want to take money out of that particular savings account when there's an extreme situation. You have car trouble, a machine breaks, washing machine breaks down in your house. You have something, pipes burst in your house. You want it for those reasons. So I always tell, anyone that I'm working with, make sure you have an account where you don't touch. The second savings account is for that backup piece. So like I was saying, the overdrafts, the moments where you're like, oh my gosh, there's something I need to get money right away. You need to have maybe get one that's connected to your checking. If you can trust yourself to do that. If you know that you're not at a point where you can trust yourself, just get that credit union account. The rates are really good. Your local credit union, just set up a savings and have it. And if you get paid direct deposit, have money deposited directly from your check into that account, so that there's money building. What I also did, I started just having I set up an automatic savings system with my bank from my savings account to my checking every week that deposits $5. It's simple. I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. And you'll see the savings will build up quickly. $5 a week is what, $20 a month. So over the course of a year, you would have saved like $120 without even blinking an eye. And you can increase that. If after a few months, you're like, all right, I'll increase it to $10. And after a few months, you're like, I'll increase it to 15. And keep going until you can keep going until you really build up that savings. They say to save about 3 months of your expenses in your rainy day account, so that if anything would happen, there's a loss of a job, so you get sick and you can't work, you have something to back you up so that you're not in a situation where you could be facing homelessness or major debt or loss of a lot more than just your home. So I'll go on to the next thing. Use credit less and more cash. So my my mantra is, if I cannot pay cash for something right away, I'm not going to purchase it. I'm not going to charge it unless I know that the next time I get paid, I can pay it off. So, for example, I would only charge situations where it's like extreme. You need to get your car fixed. It needs to get you to work. And if you have enough in a credit, do it. But if you can go without your credit cards, I suggest you do it. To be honest with you, that's why building that savings account is going to help you, so you can have that rainy day account and not rely on credit. But sometimes it's good to build your credit because it helps you with purchases. It helps you purchase homes. It helps you purchase cars. It helps you purchase property. If you're looking for a business, if you want to start a business, it helps to have good credit. Good credit gets you far. So this is why I will say use less credit. If you can't pay cash for an item, you don't have that cash right away, don't buy it. Wait. One of the things that I use, if I want to make a major purchase, I wait a few months till I build up the savings to purchase it. And I just have to wait. I wanted, like a year ago, I wanted a flat screen TV for my living room. I only had one TV in my house, but I wanted one for my living room so I can move the other one into my room. I said, I'll wait a year. Once I have the money to pay it, that's when I'll purchase it. And that's what I did. I wasn't going to buy something if I had to charge it. So use less credit, more cash. And that goes for even when you're purchasing, shopping, grocery shopping, cash. Here's why. When you realize you got $50 in your wallet to go shopping, and you know that's all you can use to go shopping, you'll be smarter about your purchases. You know why? Because you don't have to back up your plastic. Swiping your debit card, you're not thinking about it. You're like, okay, swipe. I'm not thinking about how much money is being pulled out of my account. I'm not really considering it. But once you have that cash in your hand, you can feel it. You know how much it is, and you start seeing it going down because you spent so much. You're like, oops. It stops you from making certain purchases. So when you do grocery shopping, use cash. I use an envelope system, which I actually use online. It's an online software system, and it's an app that I use on my phone. So that system tracks all my spending, what I spend on groceries, gas, what I pay in bills, my student loans. It tracks everything for me. So I know what comes into my account and I know what goes out. You should be so well versed on what goes into your account and what comes out, that to the point where when you get to a store and you're like, okay, I know I need to spend X amount of money, that that money's in that account, and that it's there for you to spend on that particular item, and you do not go above it. And this leads me to the next thing about tracking spending and budgeting. Budgeting sounds like a bad word to some people. It was a bad word to me. I attempted budgeting on so many occasions to the point where I was like, I don't think I can even budget. I think I think it's never going to happen for me. But let me tell you, I am a believer. I'm telling remember I said 5 years ago, major debt, was it taking care of my business? Was it taking care of my bills? Was happy to be in debt? Was he really caring? But then ashamed of it because I couldn't make purchases and I couldn't do certain things. Budgeting will save your financial future. It is hard because it requires discipline. It requires trial and error. It requires you to say no. It requires you to be so diligent that it's a turnoff, especially if your personality doesn't allow you to really check yourself in that way. If you're somebody who's like, oh, money is nothing, let me just go spend it, whatever. Who wants to budget? Makes sense, right? But I'm telling you, it saves your financial future. You have to budget. The most wealthy people have budgets. You know, they have people accounting for how their money comes in and how their money comes out. That's what a budget really is. It just tracks your spending and it makes sure you know you're spending on how much you're spending on each item. So a budget has to be created with a good mindset and it has to be realistic. You cannot create a budget and not know how much money you're bringing in. You got to know how much you're bringing in and how you're covering your cost. So when you create the budget, there's certain percentages that you have to consider. So, for example, if you have a car that you're financing, well, one budget tip is if you get paid weekly, your car note should be able to be pulled out of that weekly check. If it can't, then don't consider the car, right? And your car note should only be about 25% of your budget. Is if I'm correct, it shouldn't be a significant amount of money out of your budget. Your home is a good chunk of your budget. Your home expenses, such as your rent or mortgage, expenses like your utilities, is another portion of it. You know, you should be able to cover those things easily with your budget. What we call discretionary items are stuff like your cable, internet. You don't not necessarily, well, actually internet is now a utility. It's something that you truly need because it's such a necessity. But cable, you could do without cable. I have not had cable for 4 years and I've been fine. I stream. I don't use cable. But you know, discretionary things like clothing. Clothing was one of my hardest things to narrow down in my budget. I remember when I first started working with my coach about 2 years ago, he was like, I cannot believe you spend that amount of money on clothes. He couldn't believe it. He's like, I've had clients who like they go crazy, but you're really like crazy. And so, you know, I didn't even understand how much I was spending on clothes. I did not even know until I started tracking my spending. And one time I saw I really spent like $1,500 on clothes in a span of 2 months. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I was like, and it wasn't because it was what we needed. Because I have a daughter who's growing. Yes, I need to buy clothes for her frequently. But I was just going nuts. I was really going ham in areas I had no business. So, you know, you got to narrow down things that you truly need. Like, if it's a necessity, then you make efforts to spend the money. If it's not a need, then you need to really be careful and use discretion. So your food budget will probably be a significant amount of your budget because you need food. You need the food. You need to be able to purchase it. I would say like go grocery shopping after you pay all your bills and then think about the clothes stuff later. Think about all that other stuff later. You know, food, eating out is a really it's a really bad budget killer. Eating out. I know. I love to eat out. I love a good restaurant. I love good food. But make your own meals. I was not. I was not good at. I was not even a cook. Like I did not cook up until about gosh, yeah, this last 4 years has really changed my life. So I was not a good cook. My sister's on here, she's probably gonna laugh at me, but I never saw myself as a good cook. It wasn't until I was like, you know what, I have to save money and I started learning to cook. I taught myself how to cook. And now I cook my own meals more often than I eat out. It's hard. It's not. Thank you. Thank you, sis. It's hard. I believe me, because we look at food and eating out as a good social thing, but sometimes just make a good meal at home, socialize with friends. Sometimes your friends are like, "Oh, we want to go out to eat." Invite them over. Invite them over and say, "Hey, let's do a potluck. Everybody bring a dish. Let's eat together." That way you save money, you have fun. So I want to make sure I covered all my notes because we're going to the half hour. Um, my bonus for everybody, my bonus tip: develop a habit of saying no. And I say this to you because it's something I still to this day struggle with. I'm being honest, I'm being real. Um, you will have to say no to some things. You will have to say no to some people. If you got people who are draining you financially, you will have to say no. All of us on here can relate. We got family members who will probably at some point in our life have drained us, or friends always borrowing money and never paying it, um or trying to get you involved in something you got no business getting involved in financially. Say no. It's healthy to say no, especially if you have financial goals that are going to support your future. You might have to say no. You might have to say to that no to that vacation because you really can't afford it. You might have to say no to that, Christian, what is it? Christian Louboutin. Yep, beware of timeshares. Absolutely. Don't invest in something you can't afford. Don't invest in someone who you can't afford to keep investing in. Invest in things that are going to pay you back. Invest in things that are going to give you back what you input in. So that means investing in property, invested in, activities that are going to benefit you. Start your own side hustle. And if it means you got to put up front some money to do that, because it's going to pay you in the end if you do it right. But say no to the nonsense. Say no to people who just try to go after stuff from you. Like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not in my budget. That's my new exactly. You got a nice, you got a nice bag, Michael Kors, Coach, and or Hermes bag, and you can't put nothing in it. You writing bouncing checks. You bouncing checks. Invest in stock. That's the next thing that I plan to do is invest in some stock, because I need to get paid off my purchases. Monetize your life. Don't waste time in telling people yes to stuff that's not going to serve you. Say no to the things that do not serve you. And take care of you first. Remember I say pay yourself first? Take care of you first. Make sure you're paid. Put money into that savings. Set up your savings before you go to bed tonight. Before all of you on this live tonight, before you go to bed, set up that savings account. Put $5 in it every week. $5 to start and increase. I'm telling you, it's going to make a difference in your life. It's going to send you on a path to understanding savings. It's going to send you on a path to making sure that it's done. Then it's automatic. You don't have to worry about it. You do it blindly. It's almost like, all right, it's done. I don't have to worry about it. It becomes a habit. You start to form good habits versus bad. Check out the app Robinhood and do some. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yulin. So that's it. I will end there. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the message, and I'll certainly answer them. But I'm going to stop, at this point in terms of my my points. But I certainly want to open it up for questions. So please. So I am on Facebook. My page is called Savvy Moms Unite. That's where I post a lot of my budgeting tips, money tips, and also just parenting stuff, saving stuff, talking about how to save on purchases and that sort of thing. You can also find me on Twitter, IG, Instagram, and Twitter, IG at Savvy Mom Elkie. That's my Twitter and IG handle. And thank you for posting my link to my page. That's where you can find me. Periscope the same, Savvy Mom Elkie. I usually try to do at least one Periscope a week. I'll mix it up. I'll give you some tips and also give you some stuff to help you with your mindset, because mindset is everything. If you don't change your mindset, whatever you attempt will not be successful. So thank you. But once again, I want to open it up for any questions. Please feel free to ask. Thank you.